Hey guys, I'm coming to you from Corinth. This is where Paul was for about 1.5 years as he worked with the church here. He met a couple people named Aquila and Priscilla, whose names you might be familiar with, and he just really planted himself in this place for a while. Served as a tent maker. If he had not had a job in this culture, his message would not have been well received by the people he was trying to reach. Let me just point out a few things around us. Over here, straight ahead of me, to the right, is the temple of Apollo. And Apollo was the god of wisdom in this culture. And then right below that, you can see the arched area. It's believed that this was an ancient Christian church. And then if we pan around over to the left, you see this very large hill area. And on the very top of that is it's the Corinth, and it's the temple to Aphrodite, who is the goddess of love. So in Corinth, we've got these two temples that kind of, serve as bookends to the community. Apollo, the god of wisdom, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love. There are about 1,000 temple prostitutes that served in that facility. Now, historians dispute whether or not these temples were still in use during the time of Paul, but one way or the other, these issues of love and wisdom had found themselves deeply rooted in this area and rooted in the culture. And so when Paul writes the letters to the Corinthian church, he points to the fact that only God is the true source of wisdom. And we see a lot of writing in 1 Corinthians about love. 1 Corinthians 13 may be the most famous chapter that Paul wrote on love. It's also interesting to note that in this culture, over here to the right, was the stadium. We got to see some ancient starting blocks to the races, and the winner of the race was awarded a wreath that was made out of celery leaves, and celery wilted very quickly. So when Paul writes to the Corinthians about, run the race in such a way that you will get the incorruptible crown, he's making reference to things that these people would have had it would have been very clear imagery to them. Now, where we're standing right now is the Bema. This is the place in the Roman Forum. It's the judgment seat. And so when the Jewish synagogue got upset about Paul's teachings, this is where they dragged him. This is one spot, maybe the only spot in Greece, that we can say with any degree of certainty that Paul was here. And so when we read in 1 Corinthians 5:10, where Paul tells the church that one day we will stand before the Bema of Christ, he's making reference to this location and to this experience that he had. So once again, we see Paul writing to a people. He is He's writing the letter of the Corinthians to a group of real people at a real time, dealing with real issues. Now, the books of 1st and 2nd Corinthians that we have are actually the 2nd and 4th letters that Paul wrote to the church. And if you want to talk about a messy community, Corinthian church was a messy community. These people were dealing with sexual promiscuity and adultery and incest and big egos and doctrinal infighting and idol worship and people getting drunk off of communion. I mean, it was a really messy experience that Paul was dealing with here in Corinth. And so the letters that he wrote to them were dealing with very specific issues. And so as we kind of walk around this place today, inside the old Roman Forum, inside these two Greek temples, we're really realizing that Paul is, again, he's taking the gospel and making it relevant to a culture that he's in. This might be the coolest thing we've seen so far, and we might come back to you again at the top of the Corinth.